The image of 17-year-old Tyler being marched off in handcuffs while his mother shrieked at the officers is one I'll never forget. Karen Wilson, dressed in a perfectly pressed blazer with her HOA president badge gleaming in the sunlight, stood fuming. Her face was crimson as she jabbed a finger at Officer Martinez. "You can't do this! I run this neighborhood! I know your captain!" she screeched, her voice sharp enough to pierce glass. Tyler, however, only smirked at the gathering crowd. His cocky expression never faltered, even with his wrists locked behind him. "This is all a mistake," he called out, his tone carrying the same arrogance he'd flaunted for weeks. "My mom will have me out in an hour. For once." The neighbors, people who had spent months too intimidated to oppose Karen, were peeking from behind curtains and doorways, watching justice finally catch up to the family that had bullied Maple Grove Estates for far too long. But to explain how it came to this, I need to go back a few weeks. I had just moved into this immaculate suburb with its manicured lawns and HOA rules plastered at every corner. At first, my new house on Elm Street seemed like a dream, until packages started vanishing. At first, I assumed it was a simple delivery error or maybe porch pirates from outside the community. After all, this was supposed to be one of the safest neighborhoods in the city, ruled with an iron grip by Karen Wilson's HOA. By the third disappearance, I decided to ask my neighbor, Mrs. Chen. She was trimming her rose bushes when I approached. The moment I mentioned missing packages, her face tightened with unease. "Oh, dear," she whispered, glancing nervously around. "You might want to check with the Wilson boy. I've seen him roaming the neighborhood a lot lately." She wouldn't elaborate, but the way her eyes drifted toward the large house at the street's end told me everything I needed to know. That evening, I installed a doorbell camera and waited. 2 days later, I had undeniable proof. The footage showed Tyler Wilson in broad daylight, strolling casually up to my porch, snatching my package as if it were his own, and walking away without the slightest hesitation. He even had the nerve to whistle while doing it. I replayed the clip 3 times, my blood pressure spiking with each viewing. This wasn't desperation. This was entitlement. Karen Wilson's son treating the neighborhood like his private shopping mall. I stormed over to the Wilson residence. Phone in hand, prepared for what I assumed would be a reasonable discussion. Karen opened the door in her usual power suit, her practiced smile dripping with condescension. "Well, hello there, new neighbor," she purred. "What can I do for you today?" When I laid out the situation and showed her the video, her demeanor changed instantly. The sweetness drained away, replaced with a cold, cutting glare. "That's a serious accusation," she hissed. "And frankly, I'm insulted you'd come here making wild claims about my son." I kept calm, explaining that I only wanted the thefts to stop and my packages returned. Her response was a practiced stare meant to silence dissenters. "Tyler is an honor student and captain of his debate team," she said as if reciting facts from a resume. "He would never stoop to petty theft. Perhaps you should check your delivery confirmations before making accusations." Then came the threat, disguised in HOA language. "I'd advise you to choose your battles carefully in this neighborhood. As HOA president, I take false accusations very seriously, especially when they target outstanding young people like my son." But the thefts didn't end. They escalated. Within a week, Tyler grew even bolder, stealing in broad daylight, once even waving directly at my camera. The final straw came when I saw him walking off with my neighbor's package. I shouted from across the street. His reply still makes my skin crawl. "Hey, mister," he called with a smirk, the mirror image of his mother's arrogance. "My mom runs this neighborhood. I'm basically untouchable. Maybe you should move if you don't like how things work in Maple Grove Estates." The boy actually smirked as he strutted off with the stolen package, clearly convinced that his mother's status would shield him from any accountability. That was the moment I understood this wasn't just petty theft. It was about a family who believed their flimsy neighborhood authority made them untouchable. I began checking in with other residents, and what I uncovered was both disturbing and infuriating. The Hendersons had lost 4 deliveries in a single month. The Johnsons were missing their daughter's birthday present. Even elderly Mr. Peterson had been deprived of his prescription medication, snatched right from his porch. Everyone I spoke to admitted they suspected Tyler but were too frightened of Karen's backlash to speak up. She can make life miserable if you challenge her, Mrs. Chen told me when I asked why no one had filed a report. She reminded me that last year Karen had tried to fine the Smiths $500 because their grass grew half an inch taller than HOA limits. That was enough. I convinced 6 neighbors to join me in documenting Tyler's activities. We created a group chat, coordinated watch schedules, and within just 3 days had multiple video clips of him swiping packages from porches all across the neighborhood. The evidence was undeniable. Months of theft caught in the act from different angles. With the proof in hand, I called for a meeting with the HOA board. Predictably, Karen tried to crush it. She set the meeting for a Tuesday morning, ensuring most working adults couldn't attend. During the session, she waved off our videos as fake, edited clips, and accused us of conspiring to harass her family. This is nothing more than a personal vendetta by people who resent the high standards I enforce, she proclaimed, to the 3 board members present, all longtime allies of hers. When I attempted to present the recordings, she ruled them inadmissible and even threatened to fine anyone she accused of defamation. The meeting was a farce, but it taught me something crucial. You can't win against a petty tyrant by playing inside their crooked system. You have to bypass it entirely. That night, I compiled all our evidence into a detailed report and took it straight to the police. Detective Sarah Martinez listened carefully as I laid everything out, reviewing the videos and cross-checking the documentation. "This is solid work," she said, offering a faint smile. "Clear timestamps, multiple camera views, and an unmistakable suspect. We can definitely act on this." The investigation moved more quickly than I expected. Within 48 hours, Martinez had spoken to several residents, verified the theft pattern, and even uncovered proof that Tyler had been selling stolen items online, escalating the charges from petty theft to organized retail crime. When she called to tell me an arrest was imminent, I couldn't deny the wave of satisfaction that washed over me. "We'll be picking him up after school tomorrow," she explained. "With this evidence, we're confident about prosecution." The next day, I happened to be working in my yard when police cruisers pulled up to the Wilson home. Watching Tyler read his rights while Karen shrieked at officers was more satisfying than any film I'd ever seen. "This is harassment," she screamed as her son was placed in the back of the patrol car. "I'll have your badges for this. Do you know who I am?" Detective Martinez stayed calm, informing her that Tyler was facing multiple charges: theft, trafficking in stolen property, and organized retail crime. The shock on Karen's face when she realized her precious HOA title carried 0 weight with actual law enforcement was unforgettable. That evening, the neighborhood came alive with relief and joy. People who had suffered under the Wilsons' intimidation for years finally felt safe enough to speak up. Mrs. Peterson launched a petition to remove Karen from the HOA board, and within a single day more than 80% of residents had signed. Neighbors who once kept silent now openly recounted her bogus fines, harassment campaigns, and abuses of power. Tyler's court date arrived quickly. Overwhelmed by evidence, he chose to plead guilty instead of forcing a drawn-out trial. The judge sentenced him to 6 months in juvenile detention, 2 years of probation, and restitution totaling over $3,000 to the victims. His punishment also included community service specifically focused on property crime prevention, meaning Tyler would spend months explaining to other teens why theft never pays. Karen, pale and desperate, tried to beg for leniency, citing her son's bright future. The judge cut her off coldly, reminding her that consequences apply regardless of family name or neighborhood title.